myself, and you give power and influence to the wrong people. Look how it turns out. You know, you have to hype yourself up, and nobody else on the external is hyping you up. You have to. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ascension with V. I am your host, Stashia Jeanette, aka V, and today I'm going to slightly follow up on last week's podcast episode about the Nefarious entities versus demons one, because I had like a lot of questions. A lot of people reached out to me both in the comments and in DMs wanting to kind of ask a little follow-up on. Essentially, one of the questions was, how do you terminate a contract with a demon? And it's a slippery slope. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about the things that I just know that like I've experienced or seen or dealt with firsthand, just within people or just within my time in the abyss. So it's not going to be the same for everybody, and know that there are a lot of specific ins and outs and conditions that have to be met in order for somebody to terminate a contract with a demon. And with that being said, I guess I'll just dive on into the first little bullet point that I wrote down here is that you must know their name, right? Like, you have to know the demon's name that you are entering into a contract with. And I think that number one, like, we need to just, let's pause here and let's just talk about the fact of, so this particular person that reached out to me had said that this demon came to them while they were in a psychosis phase. And very typically that's how it happens. If you've not seen the Nefarious entities versus demons thing, it's you know, they always come in through the Swiss cheesy holes of the soul, right? And if you've not seen that one, I'll explain the Swiss cheesy analogy here, and that is when an ethereal body, when your spiritual body has lots of holes in it, meaning entry points or weak points or vulnerabilities, weaknesses, traumas, things that can serve as an access point for nefarious entities to enter and exploit and use against you. That's why I just called like the Swiss cheese holes. These are usually the times that they take advantage of people who have these immense amounts of holes within their spiritual or ethereal bodies by preying on those who have these entry points available. And so this specific person was talking about them being in psychosis, and an archangel or this entity came under the guise of, I think he said it was Archangel Metatron, and he had wanted a specific thing. I just don't want to like put his shit out there, but he'd wanted a specific thing in order to like help people, but in exchange, there was an exchange. And here I'm going to put the spotlight on this part of the context here. Anytime there is an exchange, right? Be it you're wanting to be able to fly, right? You're wanting to be able to free your mother or father from jail or something, whether it's that you want to, even if it's like with good intent, right? If it's that you want to be able to have the superpower to be able to heal people, even if you have good intentions behind the reason why you're like making this request or like asking for these abilities or whatever the case may be that you may be requesting this exchange from, if an entity presents to you and there is an exchange in some way, shape, or form, there's the exchange thing only happens with nefarious entities, demons, right? That's a whole thing. And I want to point out here, it's not all demons that can do this, right? More times than not, those who are going to be coming to you and portraying like this are the nefarious entities, because the demons are just going to, like I said, from my experience, the demons just present themselves as they are, and they're like, word, you called, you looking for trouble? I'm bored, I got nothing else to do, what you want? Y'all seen Death Note, the anime? Like, if you've seen Death Note, then you know what I'm talking about. Like, boy just had like this demon that was just bored and he ain't had nothing else to do, and so he was like, hey, you want this book? Hey, let me do your bidding for you because like I'm bored and I've got nothing else to do over here. it's like a good example of it. But like these nefarious entities are the ones that will shapeshift their asses off to present to you in a way that you would fall for it. And don't get me wrong, there are some trickster spirits out here, right? But like what I'm telling you here is the majority of the ones that are going to be able to offer you some sort of life-changing opportunity, ability, power, money. More times than not, these are these nefarious entities that we talked about in the last podcast episode. But the exchange is the part that you will always be able to recognize that it is not something of benevolent origin, right? So those with malicious and nefarious intentions will always hide behind the guise of disguising, of tricking, of exchange, right? In some way, shape, or form. And there will always be a hint of aggression and danger behind the presence of it. And notice when these opportunities are coming about. Is it happening while you're in the middle of some spiritual warfare? Everything in your life is falling apart, because that's how they get you. They always want to present to you essentially like when you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert, gasping for air and water like SpongeBob dried out in the sun, and then they come here and they jiggle like a fresh jug of ice cold water in your face, right? This is what I mean. They want to get you when they know that the likelihood of you being in your right mind and denying their contract, their offer, their opportunity is incredibly low. They want to get you when they know that are in desperate times. So like I said, this person who had reached out to me with this message, he was telling me that it was while he was in psychosis, and they presented to him as Archangel Metatron and presented a contract. I didn't get the details of what it was. So again, like there's only so much that I'm going to be able to say about it. And nor am I some like specialist in demonology. I haven't devoted my entire life to this. But again, I can tell you what I know. He said that there was an exchange in order for him to have this ability, right? And this entity posing as Archangel Metatron said, hey, sure, like get in a contract with me and I got you. However, in his particular situation, the contract was not fulfilled because like he didn't get those abilities. Like that wasn't the abilities didn't happen from what I'm aware of. It on his end, when I read into his energy, on his end, it didn't feel like the contract was fulfilled on either end. So I would say in this particular sense, he kind of got off lucky, because it wasn't, neither party could actually fulfill what it was that they were talking about. But had he encountered an actual nefarious entity that had the ability to grant that contract and fulfill that contract from their end, had that nefarious entity had already fulfilled their end of it, he would have been locked in for whatever their terms and conditions are. And so that leads me kind of to the next point, but I'm going to bring up the first point once more, is that you need to know the name of the entity that you have entered into a contract with. Their name is kind of your power over them. You knowing your power is your power over them. I need to clarify that, period. We've been taught a whole lot about what you need to have and the things that you need to do to have power over your enemies in the spiritual, and your power comes from within you, right? So there's only so long that you can fall prey to nefarious entity or demonic entity, negative entity interference, attacks, or tricks. And there's only so long that they can continue to mess with you or prey upon you, because at some point in your spiritual growth, you receive the spiritual ranking, the spiritual fortitude, the spiritual power, the spiritual authority to have power over them. And that's a real thing. There is an unlimited ability for you to be able to counteract these types of things simply with your own inner work and your own inner power, right? Like a lot of people think that you have to have, so many different kinds of chalices and spells and be the monk on the hill with the white talismans to be able to be able to go to combat with these things. And it's not really that complicated. It doesn't need to be that complicated. It just needs to be the fact that you have conquered your mind, your heart, your energy, your spiritual ability, and your emotions, and you've done the inner work to patch those holes that we've talked about within you so that you're not constantly being a target for these things. And not only that, when you do the work to patch yourself up from the inside, you're no longer leaking your power. That goes back into you for you to be able to fortify yourself against these nefarious entities and energies. So the second thing is that you must know the terms and conditions of the contract. So the person that messaged me that I'm talking about from this, they did not know what the terms and contracts were, except for other than the fact that he said that, you know, he wanted this one ability in exchange for whatever. But I was like, do you know what was it that you were going to do? What was your end of the thing? And I don't know if it's that he didn't remember or he didn't want to say, and that's fine either way. Like I'm not here to, I'm just here to give what information I can off of my own personal experience of things. But that is a requirement. You've got to know what it is that you signed up for. And that's a hard one because kind of like just in the situation, a lot of people don't remember because they came to you. They came to you on hard times. They came to you. They took advantage of you during hard times. They approached you during hard times when shit was just falling apart and everything was raggedy. Bombs was blowing up, every which way in your face. And it was just, you were in constant fight or flight mode. And in that time, your mind does a whole amnesia thing to completely forget everything that was traumatic for you until you have the ability to process those things. And again, like who knows when that will be, if it does happen. Sometimes it does not happen. Sometimes it doesn't come back to you. And they're very good. They're very good about how they come to you, when they disclose things to you. Like I said, it doesn't matter for demons. It doesn't matter how they disclose what they are, what their intentions are to you, as long as they disclosed it. So it doesn't matter if like you're in a burning dumpster fire and they come up to you and they're the first person that you see and they reach out to you and they're like, hey, you want me to save you? And they're like, yeah, you're flailing in this dumpster fire, and they like run you their terms and conditions and identify by you while you're flailing and freaking out in this dumpster fire. You didn't hear a lick of what this entity said to you. All you know was you were like, get me the F up out of here. But they did their part, you know what I mean? And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people, number one, fall prey to it because they're desperate. And these entities know it. And number two, they will not remember the terms of the contract. And number three, they more than likely did not remember their name, right? They will tell you, just from my experience, they will tell you their name and they will tell you, hey, these are the things. You have a little negotiation thing. But most people in these traumatic situations, in these dire situations, are not reading the fine print. Just like today, like if you go to the doctor's office or you're signing up for something online and you're doing the thing, are you sitting there and reading the 57-page terms and conditions word by word with a microscope, or are you zooming in on your desktop, like looking at everything for hours? I guarantee the average person is not doing that. And this is the same thing here. A lot of people are not reading the terms and conditions, even if they are like cognizant enough during their situation to be able to look at it, like they're like, let's get on with the show type of situation. And so that's how a lot of people get got. But nonetheless, that's a requirement to be able to terminate a contract with a nefarious entity. The next one is that sometimes there may be an exit fee, and what that is will be different for everyone. Let me explain to you the exit fee that I'm talking about here and how it will be different for everybody, because it's almost like if y'all ever seen that movie Blood In, Blood Out, like in a gang sense, like, so if you want in, there will be blood. And if you want out, there will be blood. It's like, it's very similar to this. If you came into a contract, whether knowingly or unknowingly, like you're going to have to pay up in some way, shape or form. And sometimes it's more drastic than others. You know what I mean? Like depending upon what it is that you have asked for, your fee may be equally as hefty. And again, I can't give everybody an example of what it is, because that who knows what it is that people have asked for. But there is an example that I can give here, right? There was a certain organization that is supposed to be to help people, right? But that organization is absolutely run by these nefarious entities. And in order for people to receive any help from this organization, the people have to be very submissive and give up their life, for lack of better words. And they're subjected to living in incredibly impoverished conditions in order to receive help from this particular organization. And should you try to leave that particular organization, then they make it incredibly difficult for people to do so, because of the exit fee and because of the amount of things that you have to lose to have your freedom from them. And that is something that I can speak from personal experience. It is really, really hard to get out of these things and know that it's not to help you. They're not there to help you. They are not there to give you any kind of aid or support. It's kind of like damn FEMA. Right? It's very much like FEMA, but it's the way that FEMA has done people and the griminess that lays beneath it. And it's almost like the help isn't worth it. The help isn't worth the damage and the sacrifice required for that help. So that's the closest personal example that I can give. Now, let you in on something. Your girl spent some time in the abyss, which is how my entire life has been. I was born in the abyss and I worked my way out of it. Really, that's how I got the information that I have here. The trials and tribulations and the expedited journey that I have been on in my 33 years of life was so that I can come here and tell you guys like what it is and what it is not from a firsthand experience of things. But in my time in the abyss, I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of the ins and outs of how nefarious entities move. I learned a lot of how demons and all the other beings of the abyss operate, what their codes of ethics are, what their requirements are, what they can and can't do. I learned these things because I spent birth through 31 in there. And not only that, but I'm keeping it a $100. Like, I'm good in the hood. I'm good. And I think it's really important for everybody to understand that you cannot just be out here with one side, right? We have both within us. We have light and we have dark within us. And anybody who tries to fully cast out their dark side is setting themselves up with an immense amount of trouble down the line, because you've done nothing to be able to protect yourself and you have learned nothing about yourself in whole. You got to have both sides to be a whole being. And only the whole beings are going to be able to get up out of here. And that's just what it is. That's on facts. That's on period. You have got to sit with your darkness, sit with your demons, understand them and make an ally out of them, because that's you. That's a part of you. And my time in the abyss taught me a lot of how to survive and how to overcome, overpower, and conquer a lot of what we're dealing with right now out in the world. And my time in the abyss was the only reason why I survived a lot of the things that I've gone through, period. I would not have been able to make it out had I not have had these experiences, had I not have intertwined and met a lot of these nefarious entities, beings, demons, whatever you want to call them. A lot of y'all is going to piss some people off, but y'all ancestors that you want to be talking to all the time, and a lot of y'all grandparents that you want to be talking to all the time, they reside from the dark. They're from the abyss. And you have got to have both. You've got to have both. And like I said, sometimes You got to fight fire with fire. And sometimes you have to have allies on the other side. And that's just period too. My allies there were the ones who taught me a lot of things that had I not known that that's what they do, I would have fallen prey to. And so I'm taking this knowledge and giving it to you guys so you don't have to go through the things that I had to go through as rites of passage, as initiations, as a way of crawling myself out of the abyss. I hope that people don't ever have to go as far into the abyss that I was born into to learn these things. I hope you can just watch this video and be like, a word, and that be it for you guys. But sometimes in order for a person to heal and in order for a person to fully become whole, diving into the Mariana Trench of the abyss is required. So sometimes you can fight your way out, legitimately fight them. And others similarly to how you hear gangs will jump those getting in and out of a gang, right? So I kind of gave the example earlier about blood in, blood out, that movie. For me, that's how it was. When I was leaving out of the abyss, they were like, so you're too good for us now. It's a cutthroat world out here, man. But I remember I moved into my basement and kind of hilarious, and the irony of me moving into my basement and then that being the time that I went to the Mariana Trench of the abyss, when I reached the lowest of the lowest point, I got my ass whooped. Spiritually, every night I got my ass whooped, and it was coming through in the point of my eye was bruised up, my nose was effed up. I'm so serious. I'll have to find some pictures and show y'all, but it was a wild time. It was a wild time. I was getting stomped out in my bathroom. Yeah, they don't play down there, and it's cutthroat. But that's how you come in, and that's how you gonna have to get out. So sometimes, you can fight for your contract. I've seen that shit where they'll put you up against the demon or the nefarious entity that you made the deal with, made the contract with. Think about Harry Potter and having a wizard off, with the wand. Yeah. Two people in the middle of the arena with the wands. It almost kind of like this. You're in the middle of the arena and y'all just spar off with one another, and whoever wins, and sometimes though, your spiritual body does not make it out, and then your physical body just kind of gets reduced to a vegetable state, and that sucks, but you're, like I said, it just depends upon what was it that you made the contract for? What'd you ask for? What was the exchange? Because in those cases, you have to weigh, is it worth it? Are you gonna is your life on the line either way? I don't know. It depends upon what you wagered, and only you will be able to decide whether or not you going into this arena. How confident are you in your spiritual strength? Because number one, I just feel like if you were already that confident in your spiritual strength and abilities, then you may not have got to begin with. So already that tells me that the spiritual strength is lacking. And so more than likely, the entity that you have made this contract with has a lot more spiritual power than you do. And so the likelihood of you winning that spar or winning that duel between them is low, very low, very, very low. So can't say that I've seen many people be successful on that one either, but I'm putting it out there because it is an option. They will tell you, you can fight for it. You can fight for your contract. Also, if you needed to recruit a heavyweight for your protection on the back end, that's also something that you could do. You could fight for it, right? You could duel off for their contract for them to be on your back end team to protect you on the front. 'Cause you need both. Y'all can say what you want, but you need both. And because they can see the blind spots that you are not privy to. They are in the darkness. They know, they can hear, they connect it to their line, right? Just like the higher beings are connected to a line, nefarious entities and demons are connected to a line. They know what's coming from their rooms and their dimensions before you do. And so I find that to be a thing that, again, do with it what you will, but I don't recommend anybody who has not done their work to attempt that. because they will absolutely rip you a new one. If you don't have the authority to do so, don't make a mockery of yourself or them. But yeah, that's an option. If you got the hands to do so, it's an option. The next one is you can attempt to release them from being bound to you and cut cords with them. And again, like if this was like some low hanging fruit type thing, if you just ask for a steak dinner from Ruth Chris, or you know what I'm saying? Like I've seen people have success with that, where they just use their spiritual power to be able to cut it and nullify and void their contracts. Again, I can't speak from personal experience with that. Never done it. So, but I'm telling you that is an option. Not saying that it has a high success rate or that it's something that has happened frequently, but it is an option that you can attempt to do to nullify and void a contract, whether being you like visual. But again, let me pause here because you also need to know the aforementioned things. You need to know the entity's name, and you need to know the terms and conditions of the contract as well to do those things, and then write it down on a piece of paper and then like rip it up, nullify it, right? Nullified and void, whatever you want to do, whatever means of getting rid of it that you want to do, usually by way of ripping up and flushing. But you have to be a certain rank to be able to do that. The next to last one is wait out the duration of the contract / do nothing, which is the one that most people are going to do. I'm going to keep it $100. That's that one, or fulfill the contract's terms and conditions. Those two are more than likely the only route that you're going to have access to, because again, the aforementioned are things that you have to have, and most people do not have them. And waiting out however long, sometimes it's up to 7 years, sometimes it's 12 years, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 5 years, but it depends on what you ask for, and it depends on the individual, on whatever it is that you decided with them. And I know I'm kind of beating the dead horse here, but without the first things, it makes it really difficult for you to do anything with it, which is why I said they're very good in their timing and their approach, in the way that they reveal themselves, their intentions, and how they get you. Like I said, they come to you when you are in dire, desperate need of quote unquote saving, when you are at your lowest point in life, when you have mentally broke down, when you are going through an immense amount of loss. Oh, I just lost my wife. Oh, I just lost my husband. Oh, my kids. Oh, the divorce. The cheating, the this and the that, and the despair and the agony and the pain and the suffering. And they're like, let me just ring a ding ding on over here. Like that's the prime opportunity. And I'm not saying that that people aren't supposed to experience these things, but it's just like, feel your feelings soberly and deal with it as the things come up, and then let that shit go. Healing is not an overnight process, and that's not what I'm saying here. But the issue is that a lot of people, while they're going through these things, when something traumatic happens, they want to reach for the bottle. They want to reach for the Casamigos. They want to reach for the Don Julio. They want to reach for the Patron. They want to reach for the Crown Royal. They want to reach for the alcohol, the substance. They want to reach for the things that further plummet them into the abyss and makes them that much more susceptible to being preyed upon, and not remembering the terms and conditions, and not remembering the initial introduction, and not remembering what it was. And that's how we get here. So I would say the best way to break a contract with a nefarious entity is to not get in one, period. But should you find yourself in one, I would do my damnedest to try and remember. And the best way that your cognition can come back to you is by you taking the time to look at the things that hurt you and go back to the time when you were most vulnerable and the most amount of pain, because that's where you met them at. That's where you made the contract at. And I know that sucks, but like, you have to remember if you want your freedom. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I got on it. It's like I said, I never claimed to be some expert on it, but I did spend a significant amount of time in the abyss and around it. So I can tell you what they've said, I can tell you what their rules and regulations are for it, and I can tell you what they have told me to tell you as a response to these things. And like I said, me personally, my situation was different. It's not that I made a contract with anybody. It's just that I plunged into the Mariana Trench and they were like, who the fuck is this? Who is this shining over here? And then after my time in the abyss was up and I started healing and doing the work, they were like pissed off over it. So they were like, if you want out, then you want to get these hands. Yeah, to get these hands, get this stomping. Like shit. So it's what it is, but it's respect. It's respect. I understand it. You have to have a certain level of like appreciation and understanding for everything that is perfectly in order and creation by the universe. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't be mad at it. Like I can't say that I completely understood what it was that I was going through at the time when I was going through it down in the abyss. Like I didn't have the rule book and they didn't tell me about it while I was there. I learned it as I went, but the hindsight of it was crazy, and sitting back and sitting with the universe and really unpacking everything that I had gone through and kind of being like, yeah, but you learned this, that, and the third, and yeah, but you got this, that, and the third from it, and yeah, but look at you now, and what a roller coaster, it was really painful, it was a lot, but nonetheless, I am really grateful for my time there because like I said, I'm now here and able to be able to tell you guys the things and share my wisdom and experiences with you guys on it in hopes that it can help you recognize again the flashing warning sign. If there is an exchange, no benevolent being is coming to you asking for something in exchange. Like I said, just in my own experience, every benevolent being that is around me, like they just want me to ask for help and then they help me. And that's it. Like I just have to be the one to ask for it and they help me. Same with the nature spirits. If I go outside and there's something that I need and I'll ask, or in general, y'all need to go outside and talk to nature, talk to the elder trees. They hear you, but there has never been like no nature spirit has ever been like, so what you gonna give me? So in exchange for what you giving me, you know what I mean? Period. Like I said, that's all I can speak from my own personal experience of things. And I'm in no way, shape, or form a know-all of all things. I can only speak from the things that I have experienced at this level of cognizance and understanding, at this level of growth that I'm at. And if anybody says they know everything and they've got it all figured out, like, that's cap, big cap, because we don't. We are not all knowing and we never will be. And that's the beauty of life. And with that being said, you guys, I hope that this was in some way, shape, or form helpful. And I hope that I kind of gave you some insight into the abyssal life and the ways of it. Also, I want to circle back around and say, you need both. You need both in your camp. You need both in your camp. And so when you get to the point of where you can understand, acknowledge, and sit with your own darkness, that's the time when you are capable of having both in your camp to protect you and work with you and support you. There is a difference between darkness and evil. Know that. Okay. And that's what I'm going to leave off, I think, unless anybody else has anything else they want to say. Yeah. Thank you all for all your likes, shares, and subscribes and donations. The New Earth Guidebook to Healing and Ascension is available on Amazon, and my Love and Light but Ready to Fight merch is also in the link tree in the description box below, and you can apply to work one-on-one with me or book a recorded reading also in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you. Toodaloo.